My question for you is, what does a warrior look like to you?
You know, if we're talking about a cultural warrior, which I definitely think I am, it is just having the wherewithal not to fall for peer pressure. Everything today is a peer pressure campaign. Everything that you're seeing online is built to break down your psychological immune system, you know, to make you scared all the time. But if you don't do this, you won't have that. If you don't do this, then you're not allowed to be in this room. If you don't act like this, then people aren't going to like you. And I think what a cultural warrior does is you stand up to that, and you remain committed, and you find your beliefs not on social media, but you find your beliefs first and foremost faith in God, and secondly in your family.
Thank you. Hi, Candace. Oh, hi, Candace. I have a question. So I know you're a mother of two. What is the most surprising thing as like a newer mother?
Depends on your kid, because I'm telling you, they all come out different. I think the most surprising thing for me is just that it kind of represents, it's this like it's an earth-shattering moment, because you realize how lied to you are, right, about everything. Like this whole time you're fighting and you're suspending starting a family because otherwise you're going to be a failure, and then suddenly the picture becomes so clear and you realize that this is what life is all about. Like actually nothing else matters more than this. Hey.
I love the outfit. I'm currently in a 12-man fantasy league, and the loser has to pick up a minor in gender studies.
Oh my
so,
God.
and I'm currently second to last. So, can I get some luck from everybody, please?
Please. That is amazing. I love that.
Hi, Candace. Thank you for coming out tonight. I just have a question about agriculture in the state of Michigan. Do you have an opinion on how agriculture is being represented in the state of Michigan, with it being the state's second highest industry, and our current governor not even showing up to the interview with Michigan Farm Bureau about her stance on agriculture?
Yeah. I actually just did a podcast on this, talking about, you know, the primary economy, right? The primary economy is agricultural, the secondary one is industrial, and now we're arriving into the tertiary one, which is services. And the number one, agricultural, is never going to go away, and it is what produces better human beings, by the way. I did a podcast talking about how much our world has changed, and what made it, when I just said that my grandfather's generation, just better men, better people, right? You used to be able to do deals on a handshake, right? They had better morals. What guided that? And the truth is that it was agricultural, right? It was a more agricultural America. My grandfather worked in a sharecropping farm. And what we are seeing now in this push to have the ideologies of New York and LA somehow translate how the rest of us should think is that people view all of that as flyover states, and people that want to appeal to these leftists pretend that these are backwards and these are the days of yesterday, and it's not. In fact, these are the days of tomorrow. It's the reason we are having trouble and we are dealing with the real enemy of China. That is an agricultural economy, right? They are also an industrial economy. And if we do not protect that industry, we will fall and we will rely on the rest of the world. We have to be able to feed ourselves.
Hi, Candace.
Hey.
I'm a James Madison major here, and I'm going towards pre-law.
I'm sorry, a little louder.
I'm a James Madison major here, and I'm leaning towards pre-law, and I know I'm not speaking for myself when I feel I have to play the game of liberalism in class, because James Madison. What would be your advice? Should I continue to play the game? What can I do to prevent this liberalism game?
Yeah, I think that if you are pre-law, you better be able to argue a case, right? Start with your professors, because I promise you these leftist ideologies fall apart real quick. And no matter what, you should get an A if you create a sound argument. And if you don't, you better take it up to the top of the university and complain about it. And I think that that's where it starts. If you want to argue as a career, what better place to start than when it's entirely stacked against you on a college university?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Candace. Thank you for coming to MSU.
Hey.
It really means a lot that you come to, colleges that aren't particularly conservative.
What do you mean? I love this college. This is great.
Thank you. So my question is, this is not me, but I know like the people that you that came out and they were protesting, but I have to ask, what do you have to say when people say that you have internalized your racism and sort of you speak on, quote, the white man's behalf?
Yeah, that's internalized racism is one of those foolish terms like toxic masculinity. They just made it up, right? What does that even mean? And I actually asked them, what do you actually mean? Are you suggesting that deep down inside what I want to do is to help create a society that I can't live in? Like, my idea is that, what can I do to disadvantage myself in this society? What can I do to make sure that my biracial children have a hard time in this society, right? Like, my favorite thing to say is, you can't just say stuff. You can't just say words and not be asked to explain yourself. So explain to me how that would work. Why would any person in their right mind want to make a society in which they cannot flourish in, right? It's foolishness. It's to be ignored. Obviously, everything that I have done has been to expose the lies that have been keeping Black America down for the last 60 to 70 years. And I hope that my work speaks for itself, especially in the form of revealing the scam that is Black Lives Matter.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question.
First off, I just want to say thank you so much for coming here, because me and my family are really excited to be able to come here and listen to what you have to say. But I just wanted to ask, why do you think so many people still support the Black Lives Matter movement even after they've been exposed for stealing the money and buying those mansions?
I think it's because it's very, very hard. You really have to put away your ego to admit that you were wrong. And I'm an example of that. I did actually do it. I got over my ego my entire life. I thought liberalism, leftism was correct, like these ideas that they're spreading. And when you go through that period, you are so vicious in your assessments. Like, these are the people that write on their Facebook statuses, if you voted for Trump, delete me, right? You're a racist. They're arguing with their family. You're a racist. You're horrible. You're this, you're that. They change their entire friends. They stop talking to people that they once loved. And then if one day they realize they're wrong, oof, are you really going to have to go, hey, like, I want to refriend you, just figured we want to grab some coffee? That's hard, right? It's very hard. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to admit that you were wrong. And most people are cowards in that regard, right? It's a little bit of cowardice. You just go, you know, I don't want to admit I was wrong, so I'm going to be comfortably just say, which is, this is my favorite thing to hear, well, we knew the organization was a scam, but the movement is different from the organization. I'm like, you're kind of trying to move away, but you're still too much of a coward to just say, I got it wrong and I was duped, and I'm angry about it, and how can I transform my way of thinking so that I'm never wrong again?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Candace. My name's Kaylee. First of all, I want to thank you so much for coming out here. I know you've got a family at home to take care of, but thank you so much for making the time. I just had a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a woman of faith.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to know your opinion, your experience with interacting with liberals, interacting with the people that are shouting at us. I'm sure we've all had experiences with stuff like that. How to interact with them and try our best to reason with them while still showing grace and showing God's love, even though all we want to do is sometimes scream F you at them and walk away. Right.
Yeah, it's hard. And it used to be a lot harder for me until I actually did start to see them as toddlers, right? And so I'm being serious. A good methodology is that when you see them, just start picturing baby them and like just recognize that you would never just say F you to a toddler when they're throwing a temper tantrum, right? Their brain is underdeveloped in this regard, seriously. And I'm not even saying that to be insulting. Like, they have not developed their brains to think in this regard at all. My brain was underdeveloped when I was a liberal because I wasn't undereducated, I was intentionally miseducated, and they're convinced that they're right, and they're angry at the possibility that they could be wrong. So all they do is they scream and they shout. And it's very easy to have grace for a toddler, right? It's very easy to go, oh wow, I really feel sad for you, and to realize that they're on this trajectory that unless they get it right, it's a very short window, right? You're now in university, you can't keep this up until you're 30. If you're 30 and you're still doing this, your life is going to be in a very problematic place, right? And so I just always now have true compassion for them. And because it's such a darkness, atheism, which it's almost synonymous with leftism. They're all atheists. They believe in nothing. There's a spiritual emptiness. And so they drift towards these leftist causes and they create religions out of them. Climate change, God bless the climate change lobby. Transgenderism, God bless. They're spiritually empty and they're looking to fill that void. And if you just see them as what they are, which is sad, miserable human beings looking for substance in their life, it becomes easier to feel gracious toward them.
Thank you so much.
But let me tell you how I really feel.
Hello, Candace. My name is Marco. Thank you so much for coming out here. So my question revolves around the idea that in modern day America, we believe the American dream is completely dead, that no matter how hard you work, no matter if you're smart with money, you work hard, put in all the hours, you'll never make it above if you're black or if you have a certain ethnicity that people see as they don't see it as a good way to move up. So I guess my question revolves around, what would you say to people who believe that that they're completely downtrodden, that they believe no matter how hard I work, no matter what I do, I will still be there, I'll still be lower, and I'm just going to be there the rest of my life?
I always say to those people that if you buy into your own oppression, you will become your own oppressor, right? Because you won't try. And another thing, a strategy that I would give to you is to always point to them to the statistics of Asian Americans. Nobody ever wants to talk about Asian Americans because they're actually more successful in this country than white Americans, which completely obliterates the idea that this country judges you on the basis of your skin. They are doing the best in this country because they work the hardest and they have a culture that has better values in terms of education. So people should feel inspired to recognize that it's what you are doing and how you are performing in your personal capacity that's going to determine your outcome, not your race.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey.
All right, hi Candace. My name's Amy, and as you mentioned earlier, obviously college students can be pretty radical and just cut people out of their lives because they disagree with them. And so my question is, how do you maintain those friendships and still have the hard conversations without just avoiding it completely?
You don't, to be honest with you. I think that you shouldn't drive yourself crazy expecting somebody to be awakened. And when I first got into this, I lost a lot of friends and I lost a few family members. And you have to realize that people grow, whether it's spiritually, politically, ethically, in their own time. You can do what you can, and of course you should never be the one to walk away from the friendship, but you shouldn't be shocked when they do, right? And if they do, just say, you know what, it's not their time right now, but when you're on the side of truth, I promise you it always pays off. And the greatest example is me standing against the George Floyd narrative, the idea that he was somehow Jesus Christ, right? This man had 3 funerals. He was buried in a golden casket, right? Despite the fact that if you really cared about black lives, you would have paid attention to all the black lives that were ruined because of the criminality and the criminal life that he led, right? The black people that were horrified, the minorities that were horrified and terrified of him when he put a pistol to their abdomen. Nobody cared about those people and those victims because there was a narrative that they were worshiping. It was hard to be that first brave voice, but it's paid off because now suddenly people realize, oh, this was an entire scam and I was being lied to, and they're more willing to listen. So go with truth above friendships and the friendships will follow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Candace. So I just wanted to congratulate you so much on your release of The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. Can we give her a round of applause for that?
Thank you.
Perfect. My question actually pertains to the documentary. What were your biggest challenges when filming that, and what were your biggest surprises?
The biggest surprise, no doubt, was how much I loved George Floyd's roommates. They were really sweet and they were really kind-hearted. And I walked in there. We literally had Navy SEALs on the ground because we walked into an autonomous zone. The George Floyd Square where he died, obviously, as you saw in the documentary, is an autonomous zone. So I was wearing a bulletproof vest. You can see it from the back when I'm walking. And because they're just allowed to commit crimes. It's crazy. And so the biggest surprise, obviously, I'm Candace Owens. I notoriously had this video that was saying all the stuff about George Floyd that was true, and Black America responded very negatively to my video. And so I went in there feeling like, oh my gosh, this is going to go really bad. They're going to shout at me. And they were so warm and they were so loving, and I wanted to help them. So that was definitely the biggest surprise. The biggest challenge is that Minnesota is the coldest place on the face of the planet. I was 7-8 months pregnant filming this documentary, and when you see me walking and I'm calm, just know that we had to take breaks and go into the car to where I was literally an icicle. You'll see that guy that was from Africa that I was walking with, and he's talking about the square. He's the strongest man I ever know. I don't know how. He was wearing a t-shirt, and he was just like, "It's fine." I was like, "It's not fine." He's like, "It's fine." It's like. So the cold was definitely a challenge, and looking through the IRS docs was honestly, it's just a black hole, definitively some sort of a money laundering operation. So that was definitely a challenge.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I talk about like, I see the public school system as a concept is no longer tenable. Like, I love school choice a great deal, but I actually feel like it's not enough at this point. I think that we may be at a point where the public school system is no longer tenable as a concept. Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree. We need to abolish the Department of Education for starters, and we need to make homeschool the cool thing and microschooling the cool thing. Parents have to take control, and that's the entire feminist push is about getting moms out into the workforce so that the state can come and raise your kids. And that all happened because of feminism. So
you'd say homeschooling is a good alternative? I think it is. It's more accessible today than ever, right?
I think we need to be in control of our kids, and it starts at home. And I used to think homeschooling kids were weird, and now I think it's us public school kids that are weird. You know what I mean? It's like a total flip now. So
at least the boys know which bathroom to use, and the girls, and pretty much everybody at the homeschool seems to know that. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
My name is John Magola, for the record. First generation Ugandan immigrant, for what it's worth.
Ugandan, I knew it. I'm telling you.
Oh,
people that come over from Africa are just so sensible.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Hi, Candace. I was going to say it's awesome to be here. I'm a big fan of what you guys do at the Daily Wire. Subscribe to all you guys on YouTube. I'm one of your few, I guess, million subscribers. But anyway, my question is like, so right now I am an education major at Calvin University. And one big thing there that they talk about, you know, they're very liberal institutions, sort of. But one thing that they talk about is this, you know, of course you said they don't give like the classes for your major. So for instance, like one of my education classes is that like I have to learn about anti-racism and like that all sort of thing. And one of like the wokeological terms, of course Ben would call it, is like is the idea of assimilation, which, you know, to those who don't know, is like the idea that when Black Americans, when they were released from slavery, they adopted the white culture and they like weren't like just adapting to their own culture, sort of thing. She used examples such as like Clarence Thomas, who, like, you know, he has a lot of conservative values. He's also an African American who serves on the Supreme Court. And she, of course, my professor accuses him of being like an assimilationist because he's going along with the.
Your professor is a racist, by the way, just so you know, and I'll tell you why. What she's basically saying, and I hate this idea, is that if we talk white, what does that mean? You mean speak proper English, right? If you have good grammar, you've assimilated. If you graduate, if you get good grades, you've assimilated. Instead, what you need to aspire to is a race toward the bottom. This is what your professor is saying. If you're Black, you should speak broken English. If you're Black, you should not have aspirations to run your own business. All of that belongs to the white man. If you're Black, you shouldn't even aspire to have this or have that. And basically what they're doing is they're creating the sort of Black individual that can never get ahead, right? Because they're celebrating stupidity, right? They're celebrating the idea that the way to be Black is to be Cardi B and not be Clarence Thomas, and it's a sin. It's a racist idea.
Definitely, yes. Thanks a bunch, yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, Candace. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. My question is, what has your favorite moment been so far in your career?
Oh, makes me feel old in a way.
I promise.
I've had a lot of favorite moments. It's hard to pick just one. I mean, obviously, just being able to be a part of that conversation with Ye was very important. But I've also had moments, I always go back to that moment where Charlie and I did UCLA, and it was completely crazy, and the kids were playing Beyonce outside of the door. They were playing loud music to drown us out. And it was one of the first viral moments that I took a part in, and I think it really catapulted my career, which was being a part of Turning Point USA, being able to be on the ground and talk to students and shape hearts and shape minds. But it sounds so cheesy to say, but my favorite part of my career today is the fact that I get to go home and I know that I have 2 beautiful children and a husband that loves me.
Thank you, Candace. I love your show, and I would love to see you on Steven Crowder's show.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Candace Owens. My name is Komorani. We came from West Lafayette to see you. Please come to Purdue.
Oh,
that's
wow.
a 5-hour drive. But my question is that my heart breaks truly to see our young generation where it's headed. What would you like for us to do to help them logically think about their bodies, their future, their schoolings? Because we know it needs to change, but some people might need to know how to change. If they don't know how to change, how will they? change their futures and their
Well, I
children?
think it's right now, it's creating the counterculture and giving them a home place, inviting them in like I did tonight. If you want to stay here and ask me questions, if you hate me, I'm glad you're in the room. And being brave enough to be able to host events like this, right? So that people know that they're not alone. A huge problem is that conservatives have been too quiet in the past because they think that they're the only person. And let me tell you, that is not true. I have been all across this country. I genuinely believe that we are the majority. It's just that we keep being silent and we need to get loud.
I just want you to know I'm Indian American and my husband is white American, boring. But we love you and we support you and we will keep on supporting you always. So
Thank you so much.
Hey, Candace.
Hey.
With leftist ideologies crushing traditional American values, where do you see this heading in 10 to 20 years, and do you ever see this ending?
In 10 to 20 years, I 100% am optimistic. I think we're winning, and the biggest indicator that we're winning is the fact that they are now trying to instill censorship, right? A couple of years ago, when Barack Obama was in office, they didn't require fact checkers and censorship lords because they were winning the narrative. Now they're losing the narrative, and they're demanding that we get fact checked, that our accounts get suspended, that we're not allowed to exist in the ecosystem of thought because our ideas are better and we're winning, right? We're actually creating more people that are on our team because we're sensible, and the truth will always stand up to a lie in the end. So 10 years down the line, we win. We win because our ideas are better and because people are realizing that when you follow a life filled with leftist ideologies, it results in misery. And when you lead a life with traditional conservative values, it ends in happiness.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all your hard work.
So I just wanted to ask you a question. So when you were on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2018, you proclaimed to not believe in climate change. And I heard you talk about climate change today. And I just kind of wanted to ask, and you also said that you're not going to make a YouTube video about it because you just know the outskirts of it. So I wanted to ask, what kind of empirical evidence have you ran into since your talk with Joe that supports your viewpoint?
Yeah,
and
that was actually why I got into, because he sort of, I was being, like I was just telling him, he asked me that question. I had never spoken about climate change prior. And I said to him, at that moment, I was really kind of focused on Black America. I've widened a lot of my ideas since because I realized that it's a test by fire, and you better have an opinion on everything or they're going to tell you suck. At that moment, when I was sitting in the chair with Joe Rogan, something in my gut didn't feel right about climate change, and it was really it was the same brainwashing ecosystem that I saw in the education system. And in my gut, I was not trusting a lot of those narratives, but I wasn't ready to debate them, so I never talked about it. It would have been illegitimate. The one book that I read, which every single person should read and every parent should force their children to read it. So I told you that Inconvenient Truth was Al Gore's movie. There's a book called Inconvenient Facts. And it's written by a man named Gregory Whitestone. And when you read that, and it speaks and it debunks very easily, it's almost like it's a very thin book, very easy to read. It has big font, and it debunks and makes you understand that the IPCC is a lobby that is invested in making trillions of dollars, and they've never been right. And he will show you how that none of these things have ever happened. They've always been wrong, and here's how much money they've actually earned. That's the book that gave me the empirical evidence that I needed, so that if I ever go back on Joe Rogan, I'm going to slam him in this debate.
Well, can I?
I love him. I'm just kidding.
Were there any studies that he referenced in that book? Were there any?
Yeah.
Like, what were the studies? Like,
what he does is he debunks the actual studies that were used to justify. Like, for one example, there was a study that says that 90% of scientists agree in climate change. It's complete and utter garbage. It's like 45 scientists, and he tells you how they're able to justify saying that, and he includes the actual study. So, I mean, I can't give you the entire book right now, but honestly, if you go and you read that, you will never, ever, ever believe in a climate scare ever again.
Okay, so there's no, you personally right now cannot give me any empirical evidence.
I literally just did. I told you said, what is the empirical evidence that he has in the book? I told you that he starts with that consensus study of 90% of scientists that agree that climate change is happening.
Right.
And he shows you how actually that's a lie by including the actual study, right?
But you don't know, like, the name of the study right now.
Well, no, I haven't remembered the name of the study. That is correct. You got me.
This isn't a gotcha
But I'm
question.
telling you, it's in the book, and you can go read it, and that's the one that I read. And I will next time remember the name of the study that he debunked. But do you know the name of the study? Because it's the study that everybody uses when they say 90% of scientists believe in climate.
No.
Oh, so none of us know it. So we should both go figure out the name of the study and then meet back here and talk about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question. The name of the study. I've never been required to do that, but I will learn that name. Oh, that was it. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me.